What is your favorite sex scene in the Bible? Not sure if the entirety of Song of Songs counts, but if it does, that one. There's not too many good sex scenes to pick from since it's usually only mentioned when someone does something wrong. All the good, mutually fulfilling sex in the Bible was probably just recorded as he knew his wife and she begot a son. Whenever the text stops to dwell on it, it's because someone's raping his sister or something. Yeah, pretty much. It tends to be very respectful when things are loving and normal. Tends to be very graphic when a horrible sexual act occurred. The one when David's son Absalom overthrown him with a coup, and to symbolize his dominance decided to fuck every one of David's concubines on the roof of his house, so that all Jerusalem could watch him. I had to scroll so far for this, but yes, this one. I do wonder how those concubines lived the rest of their lives though. That one where David cuts off and skins 200 dicks. Worst side quest ever. So when do we get Bible the game? I'd happily play an RPG based on the Bible. You get different skins for Jesus. It'll be a hoot. Your navel is perfectly formed like a goblet filled with mixed wine. Between your thighs lies a mound of wheat bordered with lilies. Your breasts are like two fawns, twin fawns of a gazelle. Song of Songs 723. Yup. That whole book is what we in the fanfiction biz call a lemon scene. It's not my favorite because of the sex, but because of the revenge. In Genesis 34, this woman named Dinah is hanging out when this dude going by sees her and rapes her. He is some prince or something and infatuated by her, so he and his father go to her father begging to marry her. Her father, Jacob, hears this and is like, she can't marry him, you all are not Jewish, but I guess I could be convinced if you and your kingdom's men were circumcised. So father and son are super pumped and go and get circumcised along with all the men of the kingdom. While they are still in pain from the procedure, Dinah's brothers go in and slaughter them. Not sure it counts as a sex scene, but there's a verse where some women reminisce about some men who are hung like horses and come like donkeys. Ezekiel 23:20. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of horses. She lusted after lovers with genitals as large as a donkey's and emissions like those of a horse star. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. TLDR, wife and husband spice up their sex life by letting the husband fuck the maid while the wife watches. Maybe she joined in, it doesn't say. That one where the two sisters get the dad drunk. Their mother is still salty about it. You're underselling it a bit. They got him drunk, and proceeded to start a whole country from their offsprings. And this was right after he offered them and his wife to be raped by the village people. Raped by the village people. There's surprisingly little mention of Song of Solomon in this thread. My estranged father and his second wife had this as a reading at their wedding. God knows why. It was in a church too, and from memory the lady who was giving the reading spoke the wrong bit and was saying the weird sex stuff. I still remember that awkward quiet laughing from everyone. Funnily enough, it wasn't the weirdest thing that happened that day. It was later in the night when my dad was giving a speech and toasted his new wife's dead first husband with a comment along the lines of thanks for dying 'cause then I got to marry her. His kids were there as well. Such a bizarre day. We're reaching fetish levels that shouldn't even exist. Nah man, we've been there. I mean, there's an entire book in the Bible that's nothing but erotic smut. Obviously Lot and his daughters. What's the story? Edit. It's one mentioned above about the two angels being guests and the daughters of the old man the angels visit being offered to the crowd. The crowd refuses and the angels strike them with blindness. There's an old dude who had two sons, both had the same wife and both died because God didn't like them. So the old dude's daughter-in-law disguised herself as a hooker and hooked up with him without revealing her identity. She later had a reunion with the dude and had children with him. Yikes. David and Bathsheba. David was the king of Israel and one time noticed from the roof of his palace a beautiful young woman bathing, Bathsheba. He has his way with her and she gets pregnant, problem is she is married. But it's no problem for King David, because she is married to one of his soldiers, Uriah. David tried to get Uriah to sleep with his wife, to cover up her pregnancy, but he refuses to leave his post and stays with the troops. So David commands Uriah be sent to the front lines of the battle, where he will surely meet his death. He dies. Uriah is now out of the way, they get married and Bathsheba has David's baby worry-free. And then that baby dies. But later she does give birth to the future King Solomon. The one where God kills a guy for coming outside instead of properly impregnating his brother's widow like he should. It was because of the inheritance law at the time his brother died childless, and that guy was supposed to give his widow a kid so that kid could get the dead brother's inheritance. But the living brother was selfish, he didn't want to give his brother's widow a kid, and he wanted a larger piece of the inheritance, so he tried to game the system by sleeping with her repeatedly but refusing to get her pregnant. That's why he had to go. This one is a little FD up. There was this one man, a Levite, who's married to an unfaithful wife. She went back to her hometown and stayed with her father for 4 months. The Levite went to fetch her and they went back home. It was the journey home that we are interested in. Night fell while they were still traveling. An old man saw the couple traveling through the city of Gibeah, so he offered them both to stay at his place. While they were having dinner in the old man's home, the men of the city, Benjamites, banged on the door so that they can have sex with the Levite. The old man pleaded them not to mistreat his guest. Then the Levite grabbed his wife and gave her to the men. The men, frustrated that they cannot lay with the man, went on to rape and abuse the wife instead for the entirety of the night. By sunrise, the men of the city was finished with the wife and left her by the doorstep where she collapsed and died. When the Levite wakes up by the morning, he saw his wife dead by the doorstep. So he took her and chopped her body into 12 pieces and sent one for each tribe, along with details of the crime. The rest of the Israelites were angered by the crime and demanded the tribe of Benjamin to surrender the rapists so that they can be put to death. Benjamin instead opted to protect the rapists. When the rest of Israel realized that Benjamin would not surrender the rapists, they assembled an army and waged war against Benjamin, which decimated the tribe, so much so that by the time of David, Benjamin remains to be the smallest of the 12 tribes. Personally, I think the Levite himself also deserved to be punished. I love the story about Darmuk and Jalad at Tanagra. They got it on and the walls fell. Take a moment to pity Hosea, whom God ordered to marry an unfaithful woman who would cheat on him so that she could symbolize how them damn Israelites kept fooling around with other gods. When she runs off, he has to buy her back from the man she's shacked up with, because God ordered him to. Hey God, maybe you could, appear in a burning bush or something awesome like that instead. Fuck off Hosea, you're marrying the slut. The one where the dude pulls out, and God is like, brew. I made sex end like that so you could make more people. Then God kills him or something. It's in the Old Testament after the Torah but before Isaiah. The quote is spilled his seed on the ground, which always gave me the impression he was whacking it while staring God defiantly in the eye. My favorite one starts at Genesis 19. Sneak peek, come on guys, don't rape these angles. That's rude. Rape my virgin daughter instead. Don't know about that, but being fucked by angles sounds like my last geometry exam. Probably that time the Israelites blamed a plague on people marrying foreigners, thereby displeasing God, so this one guy that's just over it gets up and stabs a newlywed couple through their stomachs, mid-coitus, on their wedding night. Numbers 25:6-9. Just then one of the Israelites came and brought a Midianite woman into his family, in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the Israelites, while they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Phinehas son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he got up and left the congregation. Taking a spear in his hand, he went after the Israelite man into the tent, and pierced the two of them, the Israelite and the woman, through the belly. So the plague was stopped among the people of Israel. Nevertheless, those that died by the plague were 24,000. In the Gospel according to Mark, when the Garden of Gethsemane was raided, a young man ran away stark naked. I forgot who it was, but it is speculated that the naked young man was Mark. Oh hi Mark. A man goes into a city and finds out that everyone in the city are sodomites. The city dwellers saw some fresh meat and started chasing him. The man fled the city and found refuge in a farmhouse. The sodomites from the city followed him all the way there and demanded that the head of the house release his guest so they may sodomize him. The head of the household told them that sodomy is a sin and offered a second option. He sent all his daughters and female slaves to the sodomites so that they wouldn't have to sin. In the morning the head of the household discovered that one daughter and a slave escaped from the sodomites and came home. So he had his daughter and slave killed. The end. I'm surprised no one has already said the Samson orgy for 7 days locked in just before he got his hair cut off. Non-canon, Enoch was really popular with the angels. They even took him up to heaven to show him around. He ended up inviting some angels to his parties on earth. They showed up and everyone loved them. They would get drunk and hang out. Well, a few of them started having sex with the mortals, which was pretty chill until a few of them got prego. Oh man, the kids that come out when angels and humans bang is real not cool. Giant rock monsters basically are how they are described. Anyways, God saw these insane rock children running around and was oh hell nah. And he called up his boy Noah and was yo, I'm flooding this shit, build a boat, no rock monsters allowed. Solomon 7, the Song of Solomon, maybe not technically a sex scene. Asterisk completely sex positive. No mention of rape or prostitutes or stoning gays. Asterisk beautiful imagery. 1. How beautiful your sandaled feet, O prince's daughter. Your graceful legs are like jewels, the work of a craftsman's hands. 2. Your navel is a rounded goblet that never lacks blended wine. Your waist is a mound of wheat encircled by lilies. 3. Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. 4. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes are the pools of Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the Tower of Lebanon looking toward Damascus. 5. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. Your hair is like royal tapestry, the king is held captive by its tresses. 6. How beautiful you are and how pleasing, O love, with your delights. 7. Your stature is like that of the palm, and your breasts like clusters of fruit. 8. I said, I will climb the palm tree, I will take hold of its fruit. May your breasts be like the clusters of the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples. 9. And your mouth like the best wine. May the wine go straight to my lover, flowing gently over lips and teeth. 10. I belong to my lover, and his desire is for me. 11. Come, my lover, let us go to the countryside, let us spend the night in the villages. 12. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. 13. The mandrakes send out their fragrance, and at our door is every delicacy, both new and old, that I have stored up for you, my lover. Let's not forget that at some point it was only Adam and Eve's kids in the world, and some serious reproduction was needed to populate the whole world. Just sayin'. I think if I remember correctly there is allusion in Genesis to other people being on the earth. I'm pretty sure there's a verse about Adam and Eve's sons going out and finding a wife, or something along those lines. Therefore meaning that Adam and Eve were the first humans God made, but not the only humans God made. Not quite a scene, but a vision of a whore riding a 7-headed 10-horned beast while drunk on the blood of the saints. Revelation 17:1-6, the whore of Babylon. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman, drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. I don't like this scene, but I found this passage, in fact, The whole of Revelation chapter 17, along with Revelation 13, super useful because together, these chapters identify the Antichrist and the second beast. They are the last people most would even suspect. Plus, they're super old. My favorite has to be Rebecca at the well. This is a classic biblical story of God providing what men want, and answering our prayers. The story goes, some dude wished he had a wife and prayed to God. God comes to him and says, go to this village and hang around their main well. Pretty soon you will see your wife. So the man and the people in his gang go to this village well, and surprise, some young girl shows up at the well, at which point the man gives her the good news that God gave her to him. For some reason the young girl doesn't appreciate this as much as you'd think. The men follow the girl back to her family, where they explain the good news to the family and offer some stuff in return for taking the young girl with them. The family is like, yeah, can we sleep on this and get back with you tomorrow? We'll meet you back at the well. And the guy and his gang are like, yeah, that's not going to work for us, we'll stay here with you all at your place until tomorrow when you decide. And surprise, suddenly the young girl understands God's plan and agrees to be taken away by the men. Everybody lived happily ever after. In Numbers 25, a bunch of Israelite men are assimilating with Moabite women against God's wishes. This means having sex with them and worshipping their god, Baal. God orders all of them killed, and as this purge is happening, one man thinks it would be okay to do the same, but just with a Midianite woman. Haha, not do fast. Phinehas, son of Eleazar, priest of the Lord and filled with the Lord's zeal, sees this and goes into their tent with a spear. Being the Chad he is, he plunges the spear straight through both of them as they're doing the deed, thus ending the purge. I always enjoy pointing out when Onan was ordered, by Judah, to fuck his brother's wife, which he did. But God killed Onan after he willingly nutted in the dirt instead of shooting up club inside his sister-in-law's guts, lol. It's the reason the Roman Catholic Church still frowns upon fapping and labels it as a grave sin, lol. Condoms are wasted seed too. Ah, those wacky theists. Adam and Eve make Cain and Abel, then like Abel fucks his sister wife and makes a bunch of babies as if to make one without some genetic defects due to incest, and we all wonder why the hell we're so fucked up and he flooded the earth. Counterpoint, look how fucked up the world is now, and think about inbreeding, and recall there's no less than 2 distinct bottlenecks where everyone in the world was, at a point in history, directly related to each other. Noah was literally one bloodline, and everyone else died. If the people after that bottleneck got to the fucking moon, how smart were humans before they got hampered like that? How smart were Adam and Eve, if their inbred offspring were so smart that they'd spread across the world and be able to make boats capable of surviving apocalyptic flooding? Don't ask why it's my favorite, but 2 Samuel 13 is mine. Amnon, King David's eldest son and heir to the throne, raped his half-sister Tamar. The way he did was basically he pretended to be sick and wanted her to feed him food. Afterward she was like, at least marry me, and ths dude just said no whore, you fucked a guy before marriage, and then dipped. Afterward Tamar's brother, Absalom, learned of the incident and, 2 years later, ordered his servants to have Amnon killed. In vain with Amnon, Tamar said, now therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. TF. There are sex scenes in the Bible? Yes, and there are so many. Bible doesn't muck around. Tells some pretty crazy shit happening back in the day, and it doesn't sanitize it. Should search the Bible Project on YouTube. It does a great job explaining some of the crazy shit you read. Judges 19:22. While they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men, of the city surrounded the house. Pounding on the door, they shouted to the old man who owned the house, bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him. 23. The owner of the house went outside, and said to them, no, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing. Acts 24. Look, here is my virgin daughter, and his concubine. I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them and do to them whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an outrageous thing. 25. But the man would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside to them, and they raped her, and abused her, throughout the night, and at dawn they let her go. 26 At daybreak the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door and lay there until daylight. 27 When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house, with her hands on the threshold. 28 He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. My favorite verse comes from Song of Solomon 4:16 describing oral sex. MTF King James Bible. Awake, O north wind, and come, thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden, and eat his pleasant fruits. Gotta be David and Bathsheba. Basically David saw this woman bathing from his balcony and got the hots for her, so he sends her husband away to war so he can fuck her. She gets pregnant, then he realizes he fucked up so he calls her husband back so he'll fuck her and think the child is his. Doesn't end there, but it's kind of crazy that Christians think David is a man after God's heart despite some of the wild shit he does.